Good morning, welcome back to the channel. I greatly appreciate you signing in today, either for the first time or a repeat as we go through 2 Chronicles. Before we begin the next chapter, our morning prayer. Father, as I read and receive your word, may it deeply be rooted in me, so when difficulty comes, it will be your word that encourages and strengthens me. Amen. So as I mentioned, we're in 2 Chronicles. We're going to start today at chapter 36. Jehoahaz rules in Judah. Then the people of the land took Josiah's son, Jehoahaz, and made him the next king of Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, but he reigned only 3 months. Then he was deposed by Necho, the king of Egypt, who demanded tribute from Judah of 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold. The king of Egypt appointed Eliakim, the brother of Jehoahaz, as the next king of Judah and Jerusalem. And he changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. Then Necho took Jehoahaz to Egypt as a prisoner. Jehoiakim rules in Judah. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. But he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Then King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and captured it. And he bound Jehoiakim in chains and led him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar was also I had to readjust myself. Took some of the treasures from the temple of the Lord, and he placed them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the events of Jehoiakim's reign, including all the evil things he did and everything he found against him, are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Then his son Jehoiachin became the next king. Jehoiachin rules in Judah. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, but he reigned in Jerusalem only 3 months and 10 days. Jehoiakim did what was evil in the Lord's sight. In the spring of the following year, Jehoiachin was summoned to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. Many treasures from the temple of the Lord were taken to Babylon at that time. And Nebuchadnezzar appointed Jehoiachin's uncle, Zedekiah, to be the next king in Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah rules in Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and he refused to humble himself in the presence of the prophet Jeremiah, who spoke for the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, even though he had taken an oath of loyalty in God's name. Zedekiah was a hard and stubborn man, refusing to turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. All the leaders of the priests and the people became more and more unfaithful. They followed the pagan practices of the surrounding nations, desecrating the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. But the people mocked these messengers of God and despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained and there was no remedy. The fall of Jerusalem. So the Lord brought the king of Babylon against them. The Babylonians killed Judah's young men, even chasing after them into the temple. They had no pity on the people, killing both young and old, men and women, healthy and sick. God handed them all over to Nebuchadnezzar. The king also took home to Babylon all the utensils, large and small, used in the temple of God, and the treasures from both the Lord's temple and the royal palace. He also took with him all the royal princes. Then his army set fire to the temple of God, broke down the walls of Jerusalem, burned all the palaces, and completely destroyed everything of value. The few who survived were taken away to Babylon, and they became servants to the king and his sons until the kingdom of Persia came to power. So the message of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah was fulfilled. The land finally enjoyed its Sabbath rest, lying desolate for 7 years, just as the prophet had said. Cyrus allows the exiles to return. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord fulfilled Jeremiah's prophecy by stirring the heart of Cyrus to put his proclamation into writing and to send it throughout his kingdom. This is what King Cyrus of Persia said. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth. He has appointed me to build him a temple at Jerusalem in the land of Judah. All of you who are the Lord's people may return to Israel for this task. May the Lord your God be with you. Well, that is the end of 2 Chronicles. So let's go see what and recap. It says here the author is unknown for 2 Chronicles. It dated 5th century BC. The content is the book continues the history of Judah that was begun in chapter 1 Chronicles. It deals with the glory of Solomon's reign, emphasizing the glory of the temple. The book covers the reigns of the remaining kings of Judah and pays special attention to the religious affairs of the nation. Hezekiah is given special attention because during his reign a long spiritual awakening took place. The destruction of Jerusalem and the exile of the people to Babylon are described, and the book ends with a Persian king allowing the exiles to return home. The theme is Judah's history is described from a religious rather than a political point of view. The moral kings are commended, the evil kings are named so that all can see who is responsible for the rise and fall of the nation. The religious leaders and their ultimate failure to remain true to God add to the sin of the nation. Finally, God allows his own people to ruin themselves through their evil living. This is an example for all time that God will not tolerate sin. Alright, so I'm going to start the next book, which is the book of Ezra. So I'm going to stop here, and then you're going to see a new video still on the same day. I should just finish the other chapter yesterday. But anyway, so I'll be back. Bounce on over to Ezra.